How to tell type 1 on the Enneagram apart from type 5. Question has come in from one of my Enneagram Coach students who was always typed as a 1 with tests, but after starting to learn the Enneagram is questioning whether she in fact is a 1 or potentially a 5 on the Enneagram. What do you do when you're coaching someone and they're struggling between deciding between perhaps 2 or 3 types? Here is a quick method that could assist. The first thing I like to do is to look for what is the common ground. What is that main something that is causing the confusion? Because our clients, our coachees, have identified with some common area between 2 types. So for example, type 5 and type 1 can share the behavior that looks like striving for competency and mastery, working hard to do something really well. When we are coaching the Enneagram is to always remember that the Enneagram types are not based on what we do, but are based on why we do what we do. Now this makes it a bit trickier because how many of us are actually aware of why we do what we do? In order to excavate that, we have to find what we call the grain of sand in the personality pearl. The grain of sand inside of the pearl is the cause of the pearl. It's the hidden original reason. So when a 5 and a type 1 are both doing things that seem similar, behind the doing is a different motivator, a different reason. In order to discern the type, after we find a common ground of behavior, we then separate the 2 by looking underneath that behavior for why each does that. Our 1 on the Enneagram we call a red pearl, and our 5 we call a blue pearl. That is to remind us that underneath those 2 types are 2 very distinct drivers. Types 8, 9, and 1 all share the same grain of sand, but they express that grain of sand differently. Types 2, 3, and 4 all share a green pearl grain of sand, and types 5, 6, and 7 all share a blue pearl, which means that these triads, these classical Enneagram triads, all share a common driver, a reason for that personality pearl. When we are comparing types across 2 different pearls, what helps is when those types are from different pearls. That gives us more of a clear understanding of some of the core differences between why they do what they do. It's a little bit trickier when the types are in the same pearl. So for example, if we're trying to figure out the difference between a 7 and a 6 or a 2 and a 3. Plus we have the added complexity that types in the same pearl could also share a wing, so they could be influenced by the types left and right. Start with the common behavior and then look for the grain of sand and the primary polarities that drive the behavior of that Enneagram type. Why does a 1 on the Enneagram strive for mastery and competency? And compare that to why does a 5 strive for mastery and competency? And help your clients to look at their lives, to reflect, to meditate, to contemplate, to be mindful, to dig a little deeper than the surface of their behaviors for the reason. Now this can take a little while. It's not always snap your finger and it's immediately available. We might want to spend some time really looking. A red pearl reason for mastery, for competency, would be something that is driven pre-verbally from gut instinct. Our red pearls, type 1 included, have a driver from the gut. Now the gut does not mean intuition. All types can be intuitive. I believe that intuition is integral and is available to us all, like a well in the desert that we can send a bucket into to find water. All types can access their inner teacher. But what is meant by gut for the Enneagram is that 8, 9, and 1 has a pre-verbal reflex, body-based gut instinct that happens prior to emotional need and a whole lot of thought driving behavior. It's very physically felt. That is combined with scanning for how am I impacting the world and how is the world impacting me. And that is again connected to the gut. So it's not mind-based impact or heart-based impact. This is physically felt impact. Added to that is a pushback, a resisting reality that is again felt and motivated through the gut. And this is finally connected to the fourth element of this grain of sand, which is an anger continuum. Everything from a mild grrr, like a little irritated pushback, to full-blown rage. So when our 1 on the Enneagram is striving for mastery, competency, trying to do things really well and working hard, it's actually been driven from pushing back at reality, trying to impact in a certain way, feeling the impact of anything that pushes against that movement or that action. And when they don't get the mastery thing right, when there is a lack of competency, yes, there could be other emotions involved. We all have all the emotions available to us. But that central last thing to heal is It's a gut-based felt irritation. If we compare that to a blue pearl motivation, our blue pearls are motivated by mind dominance, which is thinking as a primary driver of behavior. Now, thinking influences us all, but this is the center of gravity for our blue pearls. That is combined with seeking security, a feeling of being okay. That doesn't just mean physical security, which everyone can feel at some point. This is just of wanting to alleviate their continuum, which of course is the continuum of caution, anxiety, and fear. And this is combined for the blue pearl with the mind's functional dividing and separating of things. So I know this is often a little bit confusing for people, but what our blue pearl's mind is doing, which all our minds do, but it's a dominant driver for blue pearls, is categorizing and dividing. Thoughts label left versus right, up versus down, circle versus square. And that is the function of the mind. Now, with our blue pearls, they are using that functionality to seek security, to alleviate and appease the grain of sand of fear. So our blue pearl, like a 5, for example, feels anxiety if they're not competent, if they are lacking understanding. And the driver behind mastery, working hard, is usually also linked to their primary polarity, which is a fear of being ignorant, which is why our 5s are endlessly striving for more and more knowledge, deep dive knowledge. Now you compare that to the primary polarity of our red pearl 1 on the Enneagram, who is striving to avoid being bad or wrong and compensating with good and high standards and perfection, which of course they feel in their gut, and it triggers some amount of irritation or anger or a kind of grr and a resisting reality when that gets upset or when it's disturbed. Take a deep dive into the grain of sand and the primary polarities to help your clients to figure out what's driving the common behavior, and that will help you to distinguish one type from another. And it will also help you to alleviate a lot of mistyping that happens through tests that don't include a narrative educational approach where we empower our clients with knowledge.